Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner and operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our program today. Now, as you have noticed this month, we have been delving deep into a lot of different African American themed films because that is what we're doing this month as one of our special themes for this month's episode. So, with that in mind, I want you to be aware and make sure to check out all the films that we are releasing every Monday at 8 a.m. Because they follow that theme, as well as today's film, which is Attack the Block from 2011. And to talk with me about this film, I have the amazing Philip Ray. We're going to sit down, discuss, kind of have a conversation about this film. Thank you, Philip, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to talk about, in my opinion, one of my favorite films of all time. And I keep saying that not loosely, but it is one of my favorites. But with this film, I want to ask you, Philip, how did you come across this film, and what were generally your first impressions of it when you did see it?
I have heard I heard about Attack on the Block, but I never had seen it when it first came out, and so it was definitely something. This was another kind of movie that, with the podcast, was my kind of excuse to finally go watch it. So I went and watched it for the podcast and stuff. So as my impressions, it's very British when I first started watching it. I was very much like, when I started watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is very British. Like just the way the kids talk, the way they did everything, it was very British. But I really liked it. I definitely really liked it. Again, the movie's very famous for this is the film debut for John Boyega, and he does a great job in it. The whole cast does a great job. But yeah, no, I was very but no, I was very surprised with the movie. It's definitely very different.
Um, Excuse me, everyone. I originally saw this film when it came out. I had read about the movie, and it was on my radar, mostly because Nick Frost was in it. I'm a huge fan of Nick Frost. And I did not know any of the other actors in there, not even Jodie Whittaker. I didn't know who she was at this time when this movie came out. Or most certainly not Don Boyega. But the concept really caught my eye with this inner city kids against alien invaders type of movie. It immediately made me feel like I was watching this throwback to 80s movies here in the US, where you have these like Gremlins, where they were more serious undertones, yet it still felt like almost a kids movie. This one really doesn't feel as much for like a kids movie, despite the fact that all the main characters are young kids. When you have drug dealers, pushers, and everything else in this film, it definitely does not feel like a kids movie. It felt like it would appeal to adults more so than kids. But as I will attest, there are I do know some kids who saw this movie when they were young, and they got the movie just as well and as much as I did, and yet they still did not feel ostracized by some of the violence in the film, because there is some violence in this movie. This movie does not push back on that just because there are kids protagonists in the film.
Oh yeah. No, that was definitely the biggest surprise for me with this movie of when you first watch it and stuff and the main characters are kids and stuff and you're thinking again this very to kind of date when we're recording this, Stranger Things has just the finale has come out in recent stuff, and that's a prime example of you got a bunch of kids dealing with sci-fi things and stuff and how they do it, and with the Stranger Things and stuff, a lot of kids are very untouchable and plot armor and stuff. This movie's not that. Some of the kids do not make it. And that definitely caught me off guard watching the movie with that. It's like, oh, So the kids are not untouchable. Because you see the adults, and you're like, oh, a lot of the adults are going to get killed, and they do and stuff. But the kids, you think, oh, the kids, the kids are going to be safe. It's like, nah, some of the kids die, and it set the stakes a lot for this movie. Is when you get the first kid death, you're just like, oh, okay, and that sets the tone, that sets the stakes for the rest of the movie at that point, where you're like, oh, any of these kids could die at this point, and I very much appreciate that. Definitely, the audience for this is definitely. I would not do like young kids, but I would say
Rated R,
this
fellas.
definitely is a older, huh?
It is rated R.
Yeah. I mean, I would say some kids, I say this is like high school age or later, if a kid did see this. But yeah, younger than that, definitely not, definitely, I would not recommend ages of of the kids in the movie. I would not recommend that age watching this, but it could be a good high school could probably handle this.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is, Moses, who's played by John Boyega, is only 15 years old. It's revealed in the film, and some of the other characters you have to believe are just younger than him because he is the leader of this group of troublemaking kids who kind of thief and rob people for stuff. And it's kind of funny because that's how the movie begins. It begins with Sam, played by Jodie Whittaker, who is just walking home from work or wherever she's coming from. I think it's work. I can't remember exactly where she was coming from. But I think it's work. And she's
I
held
think
up.
it's worth.
Yeah, she's held up by this gang of masked kids. Um, and so that's how the movie begins right there. So these kids that we're seeing are kind of badasses, and they'll do anything for in their neighborhood. Now, they are neighborhood kids, so it makes it much more interesting because the location in this film becomes a character in the film because these characters are inundated with their own neighborhood and willing to sacrifice themselves for their own neighborhood. That makes it a very interesting story, especially when you start seeing that these kids have become tough due to the location that they're living in. It's an inner city. They know the main drug dealer in their city. They actually hang out at his place. I can't remember that character's name to save my life for some reason.
Ron.
Ron. So no, that's Nick Frost. He's not the main drug dealer. He's like the pusher, the guy who's main
Uh, the hi-hats.
hi-hats. So yeah, that's why I can't remember his name. But he's our main drug pusher. And Nick Frost Ron is just one of his dealers that is friendly with all the kids and all the neighborhood and even people who just come into the neighborhood to get good drugs. He's friendly with. But that's the world they live in. Jodie Whittaker, Sam, is this person who's completely oblivious to this type of the society until she's thrust in it accidentally by falling in with Moses and his gang. But that's very short lived because as soon as that happens, we cut to the kids and they see something falling out of the sky. This is really funny because like the Blob or any of the other old school monster films where something drops out of the sky, people go out to look for it. Oh, we gotta look for the monster. Oh, we gotta look and see what fell out of the sky. And lo and behold, it's this shadowy creature, which we will learn later on is a female creature, so it does not look like the other creatures in the film. Falls out of the sky, and Moses has a battle with it, but he's not willing to give up his territory. He literally chases after it to beat it down and kill it. I thought that was very interesting because that's something you don't normally see in a movie like this.
Oh, that's the funniest thing with a lot of the tone, especially at the beginning of the movie. Yeah, because the creature land, they again, their main reaction is, "Oh, what is that? Oh, let's kill it." They kill it, and then they carry it around, which is hilarious because they're so proud of themselves that they just killed this alien. And then when they find out that more are landing, in a lot of movies, their reaction is, "Oh crap, we need to huddle in, we need to do this, that." No, their immediate reaction is, "Oh, there's more landing? Cool, let's kill more." Like they get so excited and they go and get their weapons and they go down to get ready to kill more aliens until they see, oh, they are bigger than the one we just killed. This is not going to be as easy to they're not going to be easy to kill as the other one. And then that's when they really realize the situation that they are in. But no, it's so funny because yeah, a lot of movies, you know, a creature lands, they try to befriend it, or you know, and when they realize there's danger and stuff, you know, they kind of hide or whatever. And beginning of that, the kids are like, "Oh no, let's go and kill it." Like, yeah, why not? Like, and then once they realize they're in over their heads, then they go, "Oh, we need to hide."
Yeah, that's when it's revealed later that there's a whole bunch of them, but they don't really get that impression until Moses is captured by the cops because Sam has told her story to the cops about her being robbed by these kids, and then they go out looking for the kids that robbed her, and then they take Moses in, but the cops don't really survive very long because they're attacked, or their vehicle is attacked by I don't think they actually have names. Shadow monsters, I guess. Shadow alien monsters.
Yeah. They never gave names for them. Um, yeah, it's interesting too because they only had two of them on set. You think they had more, but no, they just got away with only two of them. I will say one small complaint I did have with the movie is you really have no idea how many they are, which is again a good thing and a bad thing. You really don't like they just every time you know one is defeated, you know two or three more show up, and you're like, oh, I mean it is kind of like an invasion until like the very end and stuff. But yeah, you're just kind of like, oh yeah, there's so again it's just never ending. But
no,
on set they only had two.
yeah, I kind of saw these creatures like I don't know if you've ever seen this film or franchise is like the Krites from the Critters movies. I don't know if you ever seen.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You do they're much smaller than these creatures, but they're pretty much the same. You know, those things eat everything in its way, but these shadow creatures, because of their look and how you know their mouths, um, they look like they could be just bigger cousins of the critters monsters. And I found that very amazing, but these are like the most dangerous ones you could think of. Because you don't see many of them at first. I mean, when they first come down and they're attacking the police vehicle which with Moses in it, and Sam is like huddled in there with him. It only seems like there's two of them, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
in that scene, there's only two of them. But then later on, when the kids are getting chased by them, like there's almost essentially an alien, at least one alien per kid getting chased, except for one or two kids where two of them are there's two of them on it. So you're getting the question quickly. It's like, oh, there's a lot. There's more than just two. There's actually more than that.
Yeah, they do a really good job of masking their limitations in this film. The other thing
What
is they actually make these very strong characters that you want to follow, despite the fact that they start off as badass kids.
and it's funny too because like the way the movie does it, you know, they start out and they're all like little assholes. They little, you know, they you know, like you said earlier, they're kind of hardened, but generally they're you know, they're part of a gang and stuff, and they're, you know, they're not like stereotypical like oh goody two shoes kids because they're part of a gang with the whole robbery and stuff. And what's nice is a lot of times with movies like this, they would try to not to say they don't humanize them in it, but you know, they try to really crank up the oh woe was me about how they got there
Yeah.
and stuff and makes you feel really bad, and they don't do that. But
No.
they'll make them assholes as well. They all just develop the little characters where it's just like it doesn't forgive them for what they do at the beginning of this, but it also doesn't like you do start to like follow them and want to make sure that they survive and stuff, especially when things get worse and worse and stuff. But at the same time, they never forgive them fully for their actions and stuff. They don't fully excuse it what they do.
No, but they do have moments where they humanize them,
Yeah.
especially when they go to their own separate apartments in the tenement building to gather their weapons. You see what the home life is of each one of them, except for Moses, who we just see him go into his home apartment, but we don't see what's inside of it. That's very cleverly done, I think, because they kind of mention why they mentioned his background much later in the film, unlike everyone else, where you get to see at home all these other kids are pretty much normal, but they're like when they're out on the streets, they have to they have to show off this persona of them being hardened like badass criminals. Would you get the idea for again from the two youngest two who are trying to be members of their little gang, but they're still too young?
Yeah.
Those two characters are hilarious. And I'm actually glad nothing bad happens to them. But those two youngest little ones is kind of hilarious for the film overall. I noticed them more this last rewatch of the film. I was like, oh shit, because I couldn't. It's been a while since I had seen this film before watching it for the podcast. I don't know why it's been a while. We watched too many movies, guy. Everyone out there, we watched too many movies, and so I had forgotten about the two kids. I couldn't remember if they survived or not because the way the film is, you don't know who's going to live and who's going to freaking die in this movie, which is actually really well placed and really well done. Because none of them were stars, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, stars.
No, I mean it's funny watching this movie and then knowing later it's like John Boyega, he ends up getting the Star Wars. Jodie Whittaker, she becomes she becomes the 13th Doctor in Doctor Who. But another like small actor another actor who actually I actually seen him in other stuff was the actor who plays Dennis, Franz Drumeyer. Or Drume, he actually plays Firestorm in the Flash TV show. Because when I first saw him, I was like, I recognized him, and I looked and I was like, oh, okay, so that's another. A lot of the other actors, obviously not excluding Nick Frost, but a lot of the other actors in the cast of the gang, at least, they didn't really go on to do too much. But at least those three, I mean, Jodie Whittaker already had done a couple things before Attack the Block and stuff, but like definitely both John Boyega and Franz, like those, both of them actually ended up having careers after this movie.
Yeah, John Boyega especially. But I also think the reason that being is that he has so much charm and charisma in this film. Not only as like there is a fine line with how he portrays his character in this film. It could have been a badass fucking gangster like what you would see in Menace to Society or Boys in the Hood. But instead they humanize him and they make it so that when he is actually kind of protecting his neighborhood, protecting his own, it changes his dynamic and they're all their dynamics. And it humanizes them. They may not be doing it for always altruistic reasons, but their neighborhood, their people are more important. And they mentioned in the film if they had known Sam was in their own building, because she's new. She's new. If they had known that, they would have never touched her because they don't do that to their own people. I like that aspect of the film when they delve into stuff like that. Because when they go out there hunting for the other aliens, when they see another asteroid fall, it's because they don't want them to come to their neighborhood. They want to protect their neighborhood. They think it's maybe one, maybe two, like the one they had already killed. And unfortunately for them, it's not the same type.
Yeah.
So,
now the big topic also with this movie is the creatures themselves, which honestly was a great design. This is a low budget movie, and I think for a low budget movie, the creature design is pretty unique. Like,
Mhm.
uh, again, the concept of like these creatures that are just all black, which from a filmmaking standpoint is good for them because again, a lot of the movie is done through is at night and stuff. So this all happens at night. So when it's outside, having a creature in all black is good for them, but also it can be a little intimidating for us as an audience member watching because sometimes it's hard to see where they are. You just see these shadows. And then, of course, the most iconic thing with them is the glow in the dark teeth and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the way you really see them. And again, I think that's done very well. A lot of it is done practical and stuff. And because of that, you can see it. Uh, like you can tell it's practical and it works better. That's a big problem with a lot of movies sometimes is, they have a creature and they CGI it and you can tell,
Yeah.
they don't know where it is. But no, I mean, this was almost all fully practical other than some small things, and it definitely helps. It betters the movie, in my
Oh
opinion.
yeah, most definitely, most definitely. I'm always a big fan of practical monsters, and despite the fact that sometimes there's a CGI versions of these, they look amazing when they're not CGI. So I would, and they're menacing. You wouldn't think that a monster which was just using the blacks and shadows, and you can only see their glow in the dark teeth, would be very menacing. But these beasts are ferocious aliens that are invading. They are ferocious.
And yeah, no, and there's constant they make constant jokes throughout of like, oh, are these like are these bear dog things? And they really are that, and it's very intimidating. Even like, and this is, how much of a good effect it is the female that they kill at the beginning of the movie and stuff. I mean, again, they were very proud of it, and they definitely, sometimes moves with this they wouldn't want to like really harper on it, but I mean, they carry that one around for a while, the corpse of it, and it looks good. I mean, it does look good. You never think it looks bad.
Now, for everyone out there who may have not seen this film, we are delving into some of the plot areas of the film that we may be revealing some elements for you that might could be considered spoilers. But if you're not really wanting to listen to that, you probably should stop listening to the show, watch the movie, and come right back. But we're going to be revealing some of that items because that's the only way to get into this movie. Especially when we mentioned already that they kill the female monster at the very beginning of the film, and that kind of motivates all the other monsters. Because in this film, when they killed the female monster very brutally, because we see the blood all over them, all over the boys, we realize that all the other monsters are male, and that they're there looking for the female, and Dave Hall, all of Moses's gang has the female's blood all over them, which is why they're being chased from place to place. It's very cool. It is most definitely cool and exciting and suspenseful to watch these monsters split these kids up and go after them one by one by one. Um, as they try and reach back to their own tenement building, they are chased by these monsters. It's extremely well done. The cinematography is well done. It's very suspenseful. And it's cool. I mean, to be honest, it's actually cool. You're watching these kids essentially when they were armed with weapons, were out there trying to kill these monsters, but then they realized just what they got they put their hands in, and now they are running for their lives.
Well,
Um,
what's a nice factor about them, having to fight and stuff, and they talk about it, and the director talks about it is, a lot of times in these movies and stuff, you would think, oh, okay, you know, let's arm up, let's get ready to fight them. But the only character that has a gun is Hi Hats, who is the really the only human villain in the movie. And the director said he genuinely wanted to do that because in his mind, you know, only the villain should have a gun because he's bad and stuff. Uh, because if he gave, because this would be a totally different movie if all the kids end up getting they end up getting guns themselves.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're having to defend themselves with, you know, baseball bats, probably the most outlandish chains and stuff. The most outlandish thing is one of the kids has a samurai sword. But other than that, I mean, it's just genuine. It is just melee weapons and stuff, which again, that helps builds the stake a lot.
Hmm.
But also, it's interesting when you think about that like none of the kids ever use a gun.
No, you're absolutely right. None of them use a gun, and that would have made this film much easier, execution wise. But what they have with them is much more fun to watch. These kids use. They use what they have. And these kids are not like, I say this, American kids who have easy access to guns. So I think Hi-Hats, and Hi-Hats is an interesting character. He is, because in reality, when we first are introduced to Hi-Hats, he's almost doesn't care what the kids are doing, what Moses is doing, but he will use them as his drug pushers, just like Ron. He would manipulate kids to push his drugs out there for him to make a profit. So that's still relatively contained within the story, but we realize that that's not something Moses wants to do. We look at his face, like he'll do it because he has to do it because it'll bring him higher status, but it's not like something he wants to do.
And also, he kind of feels pressures to do it because again, Hi-Hats
Yeah.
tells him is like, I own you now, like, and he knows that it's like he's not in a position to go against it, like, uh, you know, he is the only one who's by himself. He's an orphan. He doesn't really have anyone. Doesn't have anyone to look out for himself.
Hmm.
Look out that other than himself.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what was I about to say? I was about to say something about Hi-Hats again. I can't remember.
Hi
But
Hi-Hats is a very interesting character. Because he's really the human villain of the story and stuff, but he never felt like he didn't feel unnecessary.
no, I liked his character because he adds then, these kids are badasses, and you kind of get an idea of their world with Hi-Hats. He's someone that these kids would go to fence off goods or to get drugs and stuff, but not necessarily sell drugs. They are aware that he sells drugs on in their neighborhood, but Hi-Hats is like almost a forgivable drug dealer until Moses decides that he needs to keep that monster that they've captured, the female version, on ice. Because like you said before, Philip, they were dragging it around with them, and they needed somewhere to put it on ice. And they used Hi-Hat's drug operation apartment that Ron is at. Um, and then of course Hi-Hat uses or manipulates Moses into being his drug pusher in order to keep the monster there. That being said, when they encounter each other again, it's not under good circumstances because they're all fleeing away from the monsters. And when they get into the parking deck of the tenement building they're in, they run straight into Hi-Hats, which then angers him tremendously that these little kids have caused him so much agony and so I'm trying to think of another word, not just agony, but possible loss in revenue. And then he almost is like bloodthirsty to get revenge on Moses, whereas at the very beginning of the movie he could be completely oblivious to him.
Yeah, no, it's funny because again, like they're just like this is now we've got aliens. Anything else is like not a priority to deal with. But like for Hi-Hat, it's very much like you lost me money because it's funny because he doesn't even I don't think he puts together that the uh drugs that he gave to Moses the police took. He just sees Moses is driving a police car. He
Yeah,
wrecks his car, and it's like, you damaged my vehicle, and you have brought the police on us. Yeah, you're too much of a liability now. I have to take you out.
yeah, yeah. Which is quite hilarious when Hayat is pursuing Moses and the rest of them through the tenement buildings to get access to them and to kill them. Certain certain things that these characters come into contact with is just plain hilarious. And that's the film, despite how gruesome it is and grim it is, it also has the sense of humor. I mean, who can't love Nick Frost being this slightly drugged out drug dealer? you
Oh
know?
yeah, and yeah, and the comedy in this is very funny because it's not too much, it's not too out there. It's very tamed with his jokes. It's not like it doesn't try to be too hard a comedy.
Correct.
Because even Nick Frost, who a lot of times you see Nick Frost in a movie, I mean, he's usually very outlandish with his jokes. But I mean, honestly, for me, I found a lot of his humor and jokes were very tame in comparison to a lot of general Nick Frost movies.
No, no, you're correct about that. I found it very tame. I thought, but I liked watching him in that character. It was something I hadn't seen him in before, especially when the movie came out in 2011. I've seen him in tons of stuff now. But when this came out, I was like, oh, you know, it was one of those things. Yeah,
Because other than Hoff, I mean, at that time, he had before that was Shaun the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and stuff. So again, those were a lot more of his more outlandish movies and stuff. He's always a giant character. So for this Attack the Block, where he's not very outlandish. Like he's very tame in comparison at the time.
hmm yeah, he's very tame, very tame. Which works in his favor. Actually, yeah, because his character does kind of disappear halfway through the movie though, because they don't need him, or towards the end actually, 2/3 of the way through the movie, towards the end of the second act. We stop seeing him when the aliens have infected the entire building and are after Moses and everyone else associated with him. Which I think the way they visually do that is really cool. Because the first time we see so many of those creatures, they're like climbing up the outside of the tenement building. And then obviously from what we see in the film, they're actually all going to his Nick Frost's apartment slash lab slash fortress, whatever you want to call it, which is supposed to be at the very top of the building. But we're seeing that from the ground, from the kids' perspective, as these things are just circling that entire building, which is really fucking cool.
Yeah, no, it is.
Um, what was I about to say about that? Okay, so once John Boyega's Moses and all the characters are back in the building, and I think we've lost one of the kids at this time, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember.
The once they get kind of locked in the place, they haven't lost a kid yet. It's just one of them is trapped again, which is a kind of a good joke throughout the movie. The lot of the movie is one of the kids is stuck in a trash can, while one of the aliens is constantly like trying to get at him but can't get him, and he's just kind of like, again, he's just kind of trapped. It's the character of Biggs. He's just trapped in the recycling bin, just kind of just waiting it out.
Yeah, well, he calls Moses or tries to contact Moses and them to get him out of there, but obviously they can't because they're all trapped inside the building. So it's very funny to see his character stuck there for like the duration of the movie and what he does to try and escape but can't. Um, but in the building, they come across Sam again and they get stuck in Sam's apartment. That's how we get Sam back into the story again after they have left her. After the police captured Moses, they've escaped the first two monsters, and then of course, they run into Hi-Hats in the garage before making their way back into the tenement building. They realize that Sam lives in their own same tenement building, and they hide off in her apartment.
Which is very much funny because it was one of those, oh no, not you again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's interesting because everything kind of comes full circle with these characters. Uh, at this point, they're doing multiple things, and she doesn't trust them. She doesn't like them. She's still under the animosity of what happened earlier that day. Um, and so it's interesting to see the changes in both these sets of characters. One being that uh, Moses is his gang were the people who robbed her, and then Sam being the character who more or less gets to know the human side of these characters. And as she's learning that, we're also learning that too, which humanizes these characters. Because to be honest with you, this movie could be filled with just kid actors playing characters, and unless you humanize them, like you said earlier, we can't forgive them for what they actually did at the beginning of the film to Sam by robbing her to begin with.
Yeah.
So, um, I'm trying to remember exactly how and why they make their way out of her apartment to go to his friend's, the girl's apartment.
They go over there because because again, the alien, which is revealed later, the reason the aliens are finding them is because, which was a nice little, they actually hinted it. Then there's some foreshadowing near the beginning of the movie about that with the butterflies, but basically they know they are figuring out where the kids are because specifically Moses accidentally has the scent of the female because he killed the female, so he has the scent. So the males, that's how the males are always figuring out where
Mm-hmm.
he is, and in subsequent, where all the kids are and stuff. So they originally were in Sam's place, but then the creatures came, so they had to move to another place because they were getting because they're getting chased.
Yeah, and so they moved up to the girl's place, which is supposed to be one of I think one of Moses's girlfriends versus everyone else there, which is very funny to see this battle of the female and male in this cramped apartment and how they all react to one another because the girls don't believe these boys at all in their entire story until they're proven wrong. Uh, which is
Yep.
funny. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and and that's like for the rest of the movie, it is basically a big like kind of. It's funny because I'm trying to remember when the let's see, it's not the room. I'm forgetting the name of the movie now. The Raid. Where the Raid is in comparison. Okay, the Raid came out a little bit before. Did it come out the same year? It came out the same year because this is another movie where you basically have you got these characters who are basically trapped in this tower essentially, and this is more. It's more of a again. It's more of a not a condo, but it's more of a an apartment complex kind of, and the
Mhm.
kids are constantly having to basically travel up more and more up this building because they're getting chased by the monsters.
Well,
Because the first half of the movie they're outside, but once they go into the tower, essentially it's them having to like slowly make their way like up to a point because the monsters are following them.
yeah, yeah. But what's cool? I don't think they've learned that just yet. I can't remember. I don't think they've learned that yet. I don't think they learned that the monsters following them because of the what Moses did until they get back up to Nick Frost's apartment, Ron's
Yeah.
apartment. So it's funny because they go to the girls' apartment, and then of course they're attacked there. And the next thing you see is when they're all escaping, the girls are all running for their lives, and you see them outside the tenement building, it's the next time you see them after that. And of course, Moses and them decide to finally go up to Ron's apartment because that's the most secure penthouse in the entire complex. Like, there's never going to get into that place. So that's where they make their way up to them. But along the way, they lose two people. I think it's two people that they lose. They lose two of their members. One of them, when it gets really hazy in there, they lose one. I can't remember how they lose the other one. I should remember this. I just can't remember it for some reason. It's so crazy. But they lose two of their members, and that's when the audience really knows that they don't know who's gonna fucking survive this damn movie because anything can really happen. And as they make their way up there, they realize that Ron's more forgiving and he'll let them back in. But on the other side of the door is Hi Hats, who is waiting for Moses to show up. Now, up until this point, we've seen Hi Hats in two other sequences. We've seen him the first time in the garage where he thinks he's a badass. And while he's trying to deal with Moses and his gang, the monster shows up and kills his second in command. And so he has to end up killing the monster. He thinking, just like John Boyega, which is a nice parallel, that he thinks that he's almost invincible and he can kill these creatures without batting an eye. And in the second sequence is when him and two more people are trapped in the elevator, and they all die except for him. And it's a great bloody sequence when the door opens and you see him completely covered in blood.
Oh yeah, and the thing with the movie is they do not shy away from the gore. They definitely have their moments of gore when they can.
Yeah. And then of course, next time we see Hi Hats, he's upstairs in his penthouse apartment waiting for Moses and the gang to show up. They figured it out. That's where they're going, but he's waiting up there. And of course, when he's up there, we have Ron, we have Hi Hats, and then we have the remaining Moses gang and Sam up there in that apartment. But it's not all safe, even though it's the highest building, highest room in the building, highest tenement. They're not safe because right outside the window, which is a cool shot, is the gathering of these alien creatures to get into them. I don't know what else to say other than that. It's a really cool sequence.
They had a lot of good. The cinematography was good, very much consistent.
Yeah, it was because they started off with one creature and then they multiplied it and it slowly built up as you're watching the movie, so you get more. What do you call it? There's a word for it, huh?
Stakes.
Well, the stakes also get raised up much higher than the beginning of this film when they killed the first alien with no remorse whatsoever. But in this sequence, when they're upstairs with the Hi Hats and they all feel like they're trapped in this apartment now, with the monsters outside, I forget what prompts the monsters to come in and kill Hi Hats first. Do you remember? Shit, I remember.
It was
because they don't have guns, so I was trying to remember how the monsters got in.
They just break through the window.
Is that simple? They just break through the window? I kept thinking it was much more dramatic than that.
No, they just break through the window.
Oh shit! They just break through the window then. And then
because they get to Ron's. They get back to they're going up. Hi Hats is waiting for them, and basically, the creatures just break in through the window and kill them. And kills Hi Hats.
Kill Hi Hats, and the rest of them hide out in the little drug and freezer area where the body of the female still is, and that's when they kind of put two and two together about what's really going on with these monsters. And then I think it's Ron who comes up with the ideal of maybe it wasn't Ron. So one of them comes up with how they can divert the monsters and get and kill all of them. but Sam has to get out there, one of the first ones to get out there and get to a position where she can actually be helpful. This is the cool part of the story because she wasn't there with them when they killed the monster. She does not have that pheromone on her, so she's able to run past the monsters to get out of the apartment. But she has to go all the way down to Moses' apartment. And the ideal is that, and I'm giving away lots of details here because it's really cool. Yes, she has to set up the apartment so that it can blow when all the monsters are in the apartment. And then of course, when this how happens, we learned a little bit more about John, not John, Moses's background and his father and stuff like that. So it's a nice little character moment because she finds herself in his apartment, the one that we hadn't seen earlier in the film. And then we get some of these details about his past life or his current life, his background, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then after Sam is in his apartment, Moses' apartment, she turns on the gas and they kind of set it up to blow. But what we have to get to is the point where it's Moses who has to in one of the coolest sequences in the film, Moses straps the freaking monster on him and with the samurai sword is jumping through the apartment, through all these creatures, all the way so he can divert them all down to his personal apartment, to eventually get blown up by the errant gas that's been running. And I can't remember what. I think he uses his Zippo lighter, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's a Zippo lighter. He uses a Zippo lighter to light it up and blow all the monsters to bits. And since, some people think that he sacrifices himself for his neighborhood, for his tenement building, for his people. But us audience members see him hanging outside the building window. And that's how he survives, which is kind of cool, He's still in danger even after killing all the alien monsters, which is not something you always see in these type of movies. Like, I'll take the Alien franchise. That's she survives, and but for a few moments there, you think John Boyega will have sacrificed himself for his team, but he doesn't. He just hangs out there, which is really cool. You tell
what's
me.
nice? Well, what gets nice is after that. I mean, the whole sequence was great, and again, the action in the movie is definitely good. What's nice too is a lot of these movies, you go, well, why don't they get the police involved and stuff? Even though some of the police already got killed and stuff, is they point out early in the movie, they're like, well, if we do, they're not going to believe us, and they're just going to pin everything on us. And that's basically what happens at the end of the movie, where the police pop up and they try to blame Moses and the crew for everything. And it was Samantha, and then Sam, who at this point, Samantha, who throughout the movie again, she starts to earn she starts to like the boys and stuff. She saves them at the end. But I did like that of what they referenced early on of why they don't get the police involved. You see at the end they were correct on it. Because a lot of times movies will give excuses of why they don't have the government or the police involved. And it feels kind of hokey. And this, they actually they do show you, okay, yeah, they knew what they were talking about.
Well, also keep in mind how they were treated in the earlier sequence where they take Moses in, they handcuff him, and they throw him in the back of a truck. These kids are not kids that would trust the police for any damn thing. They do it themselves. It is funny the way the movie ends like that, them all being taken away by the police, but then everyone in the tenement building chanting their names and shit. It does leave interpretation open for a possible sequel that has yet to materialize, to see what the hell.
They keep talking about it happening, but I mean, I highly doubted at this point because, it's been at least it has now been more than 10 years.
Been 15 years, my friend.
I mean,
15 fucking years. John Boyega is grown up. So he can't be the little kid who's still a gangster. Like everyone else. Like I think the charm for this building is the fact that it's told from the perspective of the kids, and that there literally are only like three main grown-ups, and they're all completely different and have different motivations, but the kids keep theirs from beginning to end pretty much.
yeah, I don't see this. I don't see them doing a sequel. Like as much as they keep talking about it, I don't see it happening at this point. I think John Boyega's got too much going on in his career, and then I mean the director Joe Cornish. I mean he's not doing a lot right now and stuff. So I just don't imagine uh, that happening.
I don't think this film needs a sequel. Not every film needs a sequel. This is a really great self-contained
It
alien
is.
invasion film. I think it works because they're kids. The perspective of this movie works so well that you couldn't do it again, in my opinion, even if in a modern day setting with younger versions of the main characters. I don't think it works very well, or could work. I mean, you could. I mean, in my opinion, they more or less did that with the oh shit Pacific Rim movie, between Pacific Rim and Pacific Rim 2 Uprising, which also has John Boyega in it. They kind of kills off the one character from the previous film, and it makes it about the next generation of kid, for John Boyega, who plays the son of the Idris Elba's character. But I don't want to see that in this. Like, I liked seeing the inner city kids battle an alien invasion. And it would be hard. I would be hard pressed to see them repeat that exact same plot again in another movie with just new, fresh faces. I don't know about you, but that's how I feel, because then I would feel like they're doing something like the next Karate Kid, which we weren't really asking for.
Yeah, I agree. I would leave it. I would leave it be.
Yeah. I don't normally say that. There are a lot of films where I love to see what happens more of, see these characters again. And as much as I love these characters in this film, because I do really enjoy this movie, I think this is like one of those great little time capsule single use films. We don't need to see more. I do not need to see a prequel or any of that shit like what we got with John Carpenter's The Thing. That's a great self-contained film. We don't need sequels or prequels or anything else.
If they do a sequel, it's all the worries you get is, are they going to try to explore more of the creatures? Because I mean, it's good to not do that. It's good to keep them vague. We don't need an origin explanation of them completely, or you get to it where it becomes too similar to the first one, where it's just we're doing it over again, and it's just like that's also just not needed.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and the charm of this is the camaraderie between these boys. I think it's five of them. I think it's five of them, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's five of them. Because two of them die and three of them survive, I believe. I could be wrong about that. I'm always wrong about numbers. But I don't think
There's six.
there's six. I was
Yeah.
trying to think I wasn't really counting the young two, so I couldn't remember. The two wannabe ones.
Yeah, there's six, not including those two you were aforementioning.
Okay. So the thing is that it's very interesting to just see these characters together, and you'd have to come up with different characters in today's setting to kind of make that work. You couldn't bring these actors back and make an adult version of this. It wouldn't be any fun whatsoever. I think you'd
Yeah.
lose that aspect of it. But
No, I agree.
yeah, I mean, this is a great single use film that did. I don't know how well it did. I know it was critically well, audience well.
Unfortunately, it's one of those movies that it underperformed when it came out, but then it was received as a cult classic. It underperformed. It did not do well in the box office.
Such a shame. Yeah, because I wasn't even sure if it was released. Yeah, it got a theatrical release or not. When I saw it after having read about it, and then saw it when it came out on DVD. But I was not sure if it was good, if it got like a limited release or a wide release or whatever it got. So
It got a limited release in the US. And it was not, it was not widely successful. So, which is, I mean, sometimes that stuff happens.
yeah, we did get John Boyega out of it all. So I can't say and Jodie Whittaker. You can't knock it too badly. Uh, for making those accomplishments. I unfortunately have not seen Doctor Who up to till she was in it, so I can only go by what everyone tells me.
Yep.
So I'm thinking of other aspects of this film. We did touch upon the cinematography, and we did touch upon the actual tenement building a lot. What else do we need to discuss about this? I'm trying to think about what else we need to touch base on to make sure we capture it all because we went through the plot with this one. So
Again, I made a comment earlier about it. It is funny about how thick the accents are. There were times I would admit did not understand some of them, and it's funny because they said that they were they were nervous when they this did get a limited uh US release, and there were talks about putting subtitles in because they were worried about some audience not being able to understand the kids, which is funny because I also had that problem at times, but I generally understood it, but it was funny.
I never heard that, and it's interesting that you mentioned that. I don't recall either time I've watched this film that I ever had problems understanding what the dialogue said, like some of the other films I've seen that were from the UK. Um, yeah, I don't think it's funny that you mentioned that because yeah, I just don't recall that. But obviously you do, and that could be one of the reasons why it did not do nearly as well as it could have here in the States. I don't know. I have to look it up and figure that shit out. That's a whole other can of worms I'm not going to deal with right now. Um, but it is sad that the film underperformed. I do believe I do believe and I hope it finds a much bigger audience. It seems like it's growing, but it may not be growing fast enough. But then again, it's only a what we say 15-year-old film now, so it's not
Yeah.
really that old. Um,
Yeah, that's what's interesting because since it did underperform about how much they're trying to talk about it, but again, I think I don't know, it's interesting because like John Boyega and Cornish do have other projects on their lists and stuff. I think honestly, some everyone's like this, anything that's like regarded as good, everyone always asks, all right, when are you doing a sequel? Even if it's like, I don't see how this could become a sequel, but okay. But I think that's just the common thing of if a movie's good, immediately is like, all right, when's the next one? And then they're like, oh, well, we may do another one down the line. I don't know. We'll see.
oh Jesus! It's one of those films. I would love to see people's reaction and see if there was a big enough want for a sequel. And them just not just deciding they wanted to do a sequel because this one became a cult classic. It probably turned a profit eventually for them. Um, I mean, essentially, that's why they did the thing prequel to John Carpenter's film is because even though the original tanked at the box office, it has one of the biggest cult audiences out there, and so studios thought, well, shit, we better do a prequel and see if we can make some more money off this shit. You know, um, I do think that sometimes it would benefit a film and other times it wouldn't. I just don't think it would benefit this one like it didn't benefit John Carpenter's thing. I like this movie as a self-contained film. I hope others who watch this film enjoy it as a self-contained film. If you want something like this as a franchise, just go out there and watch Critters, Critters 2, Critters 3, or Critters 4, or the new Critters Attacks movie. You have plenty of that shit out there already. This one right here, I think, is a gem among these type of gems. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you'd like to talk about the movie, Philip?
No.
No, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, we've pretty much talked about everything with the we talked about the creatures, we talked about the cast, we talked about the cinematography. Yeah, no, I mean, sequels that probably won't ever happen, even though they keep talking about it.
You know, the funny thing about our conversation this time is that for a lot of the films that we've discussed here on the show, I don't think we've ever talked about the fact that they've been talking about a sequel to this film for so fucking long. We don't believe it's ever going to happen. I don't think we've had another film on the show program in which we've had that type of conversation. So it's interesting that we had that conversation now for this film.
Yeah, it's because I mean, usually with that stuff, I mean, when that stuff happens, I mean, again, it's either at this point it has been confirmed it's not happening, or it is happening and we feel confident on it. It's not as much of a timeline, but this one, yeah, it's just I think it's been too long. And
Yeah,
it's funny because it's you just see all these movies that are in development hell they keep asking like, "Oh, is it happening?" They're like, "Oh yeah, it's happening." And then you're just like 5 years pass and you ask again, and you're like, "Oh yeah, it's happening." And it's like, "Sure it is."
well, keep in mind there was like 15 years in between the first Avatar and the second Avatar.
Yes, but we knew that was happening because like it was James Cameron doing it.
Not Joe Cornish, who's this is his he's only had two movies and this is his claim to fame is this one, not the other one. Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm like he's got to work on. Apparently, he's potentially doing a live action Lego movie.
Yeah, I read that. I don't know. I don't know if we need another Lego movie. I think we've had three already, so
Yeah, so he's got, and then John Boyega is also constantly doing things, so it's not like he needs anything new.
yeah,
He doesn't.
he's got a
Mhm.
very like variety of stuff that he's attached to and what he's done in the last few years. So
Yeah, so it's not like he's struggling for work.
hmm. All right, Philip. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. I want to thank you for having this conversation with me about Attack the Block. For everyone listening to our podcast, what we love to do is we take each film and what we do is we love to rate it. Now, we rate it from 1 to 5, 1 being poor, 5 being amazing. But what we do different than other podcasts is that we like to take an object, a quote, or a saying from the film and attribute to our ratings. What rating would you give this film, Philip? And what object, quote, or saying would you like to attribute to that rating?
I would rate this 4 bear dog thingies out of 5.
Bear dog thingies?
Yes, because that's why they keep referring to the creatures throughout the movie.
Oh wait, shit, you're right. They do record. Oh Jesus. You know what? I am going to give this wow. This one's a hard one. Oh no, 4.5 giant fireworks explosions. We're gonna go with that. Because I forget the character's name who loves the carries around the fireworks with him. I thought that was hilarious to have one kid whose weapon is fireworks throughout the movie. So that's what I'm gonna rate it. This movie is really highly regarded for me. I actually did see it when it came out, so of course I'm gonna have a much fonder reception and love of the film than maybe Philip or some of the other people out there listening to the podcast would. But that still does not mean that you should not check out the film whether you are a fan of sci-fi horror or not, or monster films or not. This one does give you a little bit of both. And if you are a fan of those type of movies, which includes sci-fi horror movies like The Thing or Critters or Night of the Creeps, you should enjoy this film. This film is a lot of fun. If you can't get used to the British accents of the characters, just put your video on closed caption, I guess. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, we want to wish you a great day. We hope that you've enjoyed our conversation about Attack the Block. Please make sure to like, follow, share, subscribe, do that thing you do on your favorite podcast, on your favorite podcast app, Spotify, or YouTube. And please make sure to check out our other podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which is released every first and third Friday at 8 a.m. So have a great day, and we will see you on the next episode, as long as we are not invaded by these shadow dog-like monsters. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.